Hi, everyone. I'm Dylan. I'm one of the people that's going to give the talk Don't Be Evil today. I'm currently an early stage investor through various funds and also personally, and I'm also the CSO of a protocol called Topl.
Okay, hello. My name is Miko. I am also a early stage crypto VC. And so our talk is about don't be evil, but both of us are VCs. So how's that going to work? So, I feel like one of the things we would love to deconstruct is the question of are VCs evil? And we're going to kind of get right into that. So we're going to get right into that. But, I basically am with Gumi Cryptos Capital, and we're an early stage venture capital firm. So we're just out there looking to support the best entrepreneurs. So that's us.
Yep. So the first thing that I wanted to bring to the fore is kind of the question of, is venture capital as a profession evil, and are venture capitalists evil? And I'm just posing this, and it's just something I mull over all the time, and we're gonna kind of chat that point.
Yes, so I'm really eager to unpack the concept because I see on Twitter all the time. I see on Twitter people are like, VCs are evil, right? And I can tell you that my perspective on this is that VCs are not evil. VCs are predatory. VCs are predatory. They're not evil, right? So are sharks evil, right? Because like VCs are sharks, right? Like sharks are not evil. Sharks are hungry, right? So I think that's a distinction that I think is very important to make. So when I say that sharks are hungry, right? The thing that's important is if predators were evil, then our best move as humans would be to wipe them out, right? Because if we encountered a species on this planet that was truly evil, then we should wipe out that species. But I think eagles deserve to live, sharks deserve to live, bears, wolves deserve to live, right? And so predators are not evil, although they may be misunderstood. So maybe we can get into that.
Yeah, so something that we've talked about a lot is how VCs actually behave and interact with their founders. And I think the distinction between evil and predatory is definitely such that something that is predatory is still needed for the broader ecosystem. So innovation wouldn't occur if VCs weren't around, and even though VC is a relatively new construct, like, in 2015, 24% of all jobs were created by venture-backed companies, for example. Like, there's just so much evidence that VC is really good for like our broader economy in the United States and globally. But kind of wanted to bring it back in terms of things that VCs do that are actually severely helpful to the founder, but also inherently predatory because they're dual-sided.
Yeah, so one of the things to know about VCs is how their brains work, right? And one of the great things about VCs is that their brains, like the brains of most predators, are actually pretty small, right? So like if you look at like predators, their brains are small, and this is actually great. I actually have a venture capital pitching methodology. And the methodology is what I call the magic words. So there are magic words that you can say to a VC, and they're going to basically invest. And I'm so confident in my methodology of the magic words that you can literally write the magic words on your hand. And you could literally stand in front of a VC and read them, visibly read them from your hand, and they will still work. Right? And
Yay! Yay! There's hope.
Yes.
There's
right?
hope.
And why is that? Why does it work? Right? It's so simple because the goal is essentially, if you're pitching a VC, you want to trigger something that I call the chase reflex. And what happens is that a VC is basically either going to chase or they're going to sleep, right? Which is, if you look at a lion spends most of their time asleep. And the reason lions spend their time asleep is because it's calorically expensive to chase. So when they chase, they're wanting to kill and eat, right? So the point is that the magic words are the bait that starts the chase. It's really a way of effectively, like, it's like bait. So you dangle the bait, and then the VC just kind of comes along, right? And so it's all done through pattern recognition, which is you can show something, it's a pattern, and it fits the pattern, and then the VC starts to chase, right? Their brains, not very big. Their eyes point forward. It's predators.
Right. So what are those words, and what are some of the patterns? So that's a great kind of segue.
Yeah. So, like, I'm definitely producing content on the magic words and on the pitching methodology. But really, like, one of the biggest things has to do with how do you talk about your opportunity, right? Because pitching, the actual pitching part, every single minute you spend pitching, you're in the weak position. Wow. So every second that you spend pitching, you're in the weak position. And every second that you spend talking about the deal is the strong position. But here's the sad thing about entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs know their business, right? And so when they pitch their business, they feel knowledgeable and powerful. But in fact, every minute they spend pitching, they get weaker and weaker and weaker. Because when you're pitching, you're saying, please understand me. Please invest in my business. Please, please, please. I am begging you, right? Talking about your deal and the opportunity is you're powerful because you're like, there's only one of me. I'm non-fungible, right? My opportunity is unique and your money is fungible. Like, there's just thousands of VCs. There's too many VCs.
Yep.
So, nature will remove a lot of the VCs for you.
Right.
But anyhow, so in terms of your question about evil, right, what are some of the evil things that VCs do? So I don't think surveying you and watching you all the time is evil, right? Like I said, predators are not evil, they're just hungry, right? So they just watch. So there's a lot of watching that goes on. So for example, as a VC, one of the things I do is I try to help, right? So for example, if you say, oh, I have a certain kind of customer, right? If I'm interested in your company, I'm going to introduce you to 5 potential customers. I'll just bring them to you. It's like, oh, okay, you want to talk to these customers? But then those customers are actually doing diligence on you. And let's say that you land 0 of 5 customers. What does that mean? It means either your product isn't very good, or it means your selling isn't very good. So if I'm sending customers to you and nothing's happening, then I got my diligence done. Is that helpful? Actually, it is. It is helpful. Like, you got introductions to potential customers, right? Is it predatory? It kind of is, because I'm using the customers to figure out if your product is good and if your sales are good, right? So that's kind of the way our brains work.
Right, but it's predatory, but it's helpful. And sometimes it's what's needed to actually make the actual economic truth of the product come alive. And so on that note, I think one of the things that has happened in the last 12 months, which I'm very grateful for, is that we've come away from a founder-led VC landscape and into a VC-led VC landscape for fundraising. And so we're now able to actually get to the bottom of a lot of truths, so to speak, that perhaps were obfuscated based on the economic climate in 2021 and early 2022. So to me, that's not evil or predatory. That's just what's going to happen anyways, and the VC can either speed it up or be passive and not. And so the same thing happens naturally when the VC who's trying to hunt actually also hunts with other hunters, and those people gather together and try and figure out the truth about certain situations. It's just another way to aggregate information. And it can be seen as unethical, but it's not. It's usually how very large amounts of money get raised.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's kind of crazy is like the way VC brains work, right, is that I actually try to make it a point to help people before I have any economic interest in helping people, right? So you could look at that and you could be like, wow, that's very altruistic, right? That's a very benevolent human. Like, at the core, like, I aspire, like most humans, to be a benevolent human, right? So I want to help people, and helping people actually makes me feel good, right? And one of the ways I help people is I help entrepreneurs figure out how to talk to VCs, right? Because they don't know how to do that mostly, right? But the other side of the coin is that there are certain ways to try to help where you can actually also be doing diligence. Like, for example, one kind of help can actually be critical feedback. Critical feedback. So there's a couple reactions you can have to critical feedback, right? So for example, let's say I tell an entrepreneur, I don't believe what you're doing. I don't think it's good. What you're doing is bad, right? So the worst thing you could ever see is if the entrepreneur just says, man, you're right. I give up. I'm going to do something else now. And it's like, okay, wow. No conviction, right? That's terrible, right? The other thing that's bad, though, is if they just get really angry and they don't listen, right? Because if you have a legitimate critical feedback, you want to have a back and forth and see that they're actually thinking about the space, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, the complexity of the mind of the VC is that they may be helping you, but helping you also may also be a part of helping themselves. It's very complicated.
Right. So when the founder and the VC make money, it's value accretive to both of them.
I did want to comment on that. On that, which is there was a great exchange on Twitter, and the classic venture capitalist Vinod Khosla, he was arguing with someone about VCs, and he basically said, so the person was arguing that VCs is zero sum. It's zero sum, right? And it's win-lose, right? But this is completely nonsense. It's nonsense, right? Like. Here's the issue. The issue is when you talk about predators eat, what do predators eat? They eat herbivores, right? And really the thing that's funny is herbivores eat plants, right? The only people that are actually producing energy in the ecosystem, right, are plants, right? So so builders, right? So for sure VCs don't build anything. We don't build anything, right? So that's why we're predatory, is we don't build things. But does the ecosystem benefit from the existence of predators? I guarantee you it does, right? They're playing a role.
Yeah.
And it's beneficial.
Yeah. And then it just becomes a question of what happens to the predators when they aren't successful, right? Like what happens when there are too many?
Yeah.
That's really what we're seeing right now, which is very fascinating.
So I love that Dylan has pull this out, right? Because the thing that's happened recently related to the massive money printing, right, is that when you look at COVID money printing, what it's done is it's created like thousands and thousands of like VCs, right? And then just not as many builders, right? So I think we're definitely headed for like VC mass extinction, right? Because the ecosystem, when you think about like an apex predator, like think about like a bald eagle, right? So like how many mice do you need for there to be a bald eagle, right? It's the ratio is like natural, right? So the biosphere doesn't support as many VCs as we have. So for sure, we're going to have VC mass extinction coming up.
We're actually already seeing this, at least in my opinion, on the traditional side, where a lot of LPs are saying for VCs that were started before 2017 and didn't return a majority of capital by 2018, or even by 2021, probably aren't going to see re-ups or those LPs. And I can tell you for a fact that is happening. So like there are really amazing funds that will probably never raise another fund. So, it's fascinating to see it happen in real time.
Yeah, awesome. So I know we're kind of in the closing hours of this talk. So what I wanted to do is give information about if you want to continue to follow us. I'm definitely kind of in my ethos trying to be helpful to entrepreneurs.
Yep.
So you can reach out to me. My website is miko.com, miko.com. Twitter is Miko Java, Java. So you can just follow me at either place. Dylan, where do we reach you?
My Twitter is Crypto VC Dylan. So, yep.
Crypto VC Dylan.
Like
so you should
DYLAN.
follow her. And what we'll do is we're gonna dump off stage right. So like we'll just be over there if you want to talk.
Yep.
We'll probably try not to disturb the next speaker. But thank you very much.